France, the most romantic and prosperous country in the world, draws tens of millions of visitors every year. But the glitzy lights outside the city have made people forget the darker shades of the city of light. From poverty, trash piles taller than the Eiffel Tower, homeless people begging across the city, to scams and petty theft everywhere. Are French women truly living as romantically as imagined, or is there a lot more France doesn't want you to know? Let's dive into today's travel documentary right now. When you think of France, what first comes to mind? The girls in famous fashion shows for brands like Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Dior, and Hermès? Or perhaps the title world's perfume capital, home to legendary fragrances from Guerlain, Yves Saint Laurent, and Jo Malone? Known as the cultural heart of Europe, France's heritage spans thousands of years, embodying a unique identity shaped over centuries, even dating back to BC. From the Eiffel Tower, Notre Dame Cathedral, to the sacred Montmartre hilltop, French landmarks shine. But does France truly sparkle as the city of light? Or, as one photographer put it, if you look from atop the Eiffel Tower, you'll realize this city is not just romance. Contrary to images of elegant women confidently striding along Paris streets with Chanel bags, Louboutin heels, or classic Dior dresses, you'll also encounter a scene that completely contrasts. These tourists and girls along the city's quieter streets will find people with tired faces wearing old hoodies, dusty coats, or mismatched clothes. Homeless people crowd together, sleeping sprawled out on the main roads near traffic lights, outside luxurious cafes and upscale restaurants. This harsh reality led photographer David Tuschinski to dub Paris as the city of fake romance. It's estimated that around 330,000 homeless people live across France, with at least 3,000 struggling to survive on Paris's streets during the harsh winter of 2022. This figure may no longer shock the public, as national economic research in France shows that the homeless adult population in the Paris metro area has surged by 86% over the past decade. Around the world, France is often seen as a place of elegance and aristocratic living, but perhaps that image only applies to the wealthy. Meanwhile, the struggles of homeless people, those who depend on limited social assistance to get by, tell another story in this lavish city. A man holding a sign reading, "I'm hungry," asks passing tourists for help, while a woman moves from one tourist spot to another, hoping for a few coins from visitors. They live in makeshift tents, forming large groups spread out on the streets and in parks. They sleep, eat, and even manage personal hygiene right there without anyone to clean up. Poverty in France doesn't just show up on the streets. It hides within the lives of people who work every day yet barely make ends meet. Far from the bright lights of Paris, the town of Roubaix paints a bleak picture. Here, poverty seems unending, with abandoned cars piled up in many old train stations because residents can't afford repairs. A quiet anxiety hangs over households. What will we eat when the money runs out? By the 20th, which meal will we skip today to make it through the week? How can I tell my wife that we can't afford another weekend outing? As winter arrives, some even burn scrap wood for warmth because gas prices are too high for many, like the warehouse workers whose wages barely last until the end of the month. This is daily life, a side of France hidden from the world's glossy postcards. So, what do you think of a country as luxurious as France, which welcomes 90 million tourists a year, about the population of Egypt? Paris ranks as the world's third richest city after New York and London. Yet, why is there such a large homeless population, and how might they impact tourists' experiences? If you want to know why, comment with the number 4 and an exclamation mark. We'll share insights on these two questions. As you may know, poverty often goes hand in hand with pollution, and Paris, the city of light, is no exception. Many Paris streets today tell a not-so-romantic story, marked by piles of trash that photographers have to edit out just to capture a clear shot of the Eiffel Tower. By March 2023, over 10,000 tons of garbage had piled up on the city's streets, equivalent to the weight of the Eiffel Tower itself. If stacked, these massive piles would stand 1.3 times taller than the tower. An unpleasant odor often lingers around the city, as public urination remains common despite numerous efforts to curb it with public restrooms and mobile facilities. Water pollution is another urgent issue. The Seine River, so closely associated with the image of Paris, is frequently polluted with floating trash and industrial waste. Even the Paris 2024 Olympics had to postpone the men's triathlon event due to unsafe water quality in the Seine, despite a $1.4 billion cleanup effort. Air pollution. According to Air Paris, the agency monitoring Paris's air quality, shows that the city often exceeds the safe PM 2.5 levels set by the World Health Organization, especially in winter. In 2023, Paris recorded PM 2.5 levels of 50 micrograms per cubic meter, twice the safe limit of 25 micrograms per cubic meter. This level of pollution poses health risks, from eye and throat irritation to respiratory and even cardiovascular diseases. Paris may be enchanting with its elegant beauty, but a closer look reveals a city grappling with the harsh reality of pollution everywhere. What do you think? Would you still want to visit the world's most romantic destination if it meant a potential impact on your health? Comment with a 5 if you would, or a 7 if not. Thank you for your feedback. In France, the gap between urban and rural areas is becoming increasingly evident in terms of mobility and access to higher education. Students in rural areas not only face transportation challenges, such as reduced rail services and rising fuel costs, but also struggle with the Parcoursup system, the platform for university admissions. Since Parcoursup was introduced in 2018, a geographic filter has been applied, giving urban students an advantage when applying to major universities. For example, cities like Paris and other large cities are often prioritized, while outstanding students from rural areas find it more difficult to gain admission to top universities. According to 2021 data, the acceptance rate for urban students at prestigious schools is about 30% higher than for rural students with similar academic achievements. It's not just the living environment that's noteworthy, but also the women and local people in France. While France is known as a romantic country, perhaps this romance is not always directed towards women. Although women are praised for their unique je ne sais quoi, their daily realities can be more complicated. Even with high levels of education, women in France still face significant pay gaps, especially in top positions. For instance, in fields like finance or law, a female executive in Paris might earn around $775,000 a year, while her male counterpart could earn nearly $90,000 to $95,000 more. Many women take pride in living an independent single life, valuing financial autonomy, career ambition, and opting out of traditional marriage. However, society often asks, "Why aren't you married?" Or, "When will you have children?" Single mothers or women without children can sometimes be seen as missing something. For those who are married, life presents its own set of challenges. Most have to juggle multiple roles, from raising children to maintaining a career, while always trying to keep a youthful and attractive image. Sadly, many French women do not feel happy in their marriages. In fact, the rate of unhappy marriages in France has reached 45%, ranking the country 7th in Europe. French women share that after marriage, the romance from French men seems to fade. Instead of the sweet, romantic gestures seen in famous French films, many husbands appear quite proud, cynical, and less emotionally expressive, leaving many women feeling disappointed. This reality in marriage has led many French women to reassess their happiness and their roles in relationships, making marriage in France not as beautiful as the fairy tales we often imagine. Eventually, some choose to remain single, while others seek relationships abroad. In 2023, there were around 300,000 marriages registered in France. Of these, about 35,600 were between French citizens and foreigners. Not only has this number grown, but many French women are now seeking more practical men, like those from the United States and other countries. If you also want to build happiness with these women, comment with the number 8. We will share with you how to win their trust and win over these women in France. Especially in Paris, you can encounter luxury cars like Rolls-Royce, Bugatti, Lamborghini, and other high-end brands on the streets. France has about 39.5 million cars, ranking 4th in Europe after countries like Germany, Italy, and the United Kingdom. Traffic jams have become an unavoidable part of life in France. Millions of cars crowd the streets, causing slow and uncontrollable traffic. Although Paris has a developed public transportation system, the roads were built in the past when the population and number of cars were much lower, and they can no longer meet the growing demands of the people. In fact, in Paris alone, residents spend an average of 140 hours each year just sitting in traffic, a high number compared to other cities. Compared to cities like Tokyo, where the public transportation system is outstanding and personal car usage is low, the traffic congestion in Paris is particularly severe. While Tokyo is also a densely populated city, thanks to its extremely efficient subway system and widespread public transport, the people of Tokyo rarely face the same traffic jams as those in Paris. If you think traveling in France, especially Paris, is incredibly safe, think again. In reality, scams and unfortunate events are a daily occurrence in France. Unlike the scruffy and suspicious characters you might encounter in the United States or elsewhere, these people create a sincere and trustworthy impression before pulling off their scams. We'll share with you some of the most common tricks happening in France. Around the charming area near the Sacré-Cœur Basilica, visitors may encounter friendly locals who seem eager to share a moment with them. They smile warmly, approach tourists, offer to tie a friendship bracelet around their wrist, and start a casual conversation. However, before long, they will demand payment for these items at an inflated price. Don't fall for it. If you didn't ask for the item, you don't have to pay for it, simply walk away. Along the Seine River, imagine strolling by and passing an elderly person when suddenly you hear the clink of a metal object hitting the ground. They stop you, pick up a gold ring, and claim that you just dropped it. Clearly, you didn't drop it, and you tell them so. They will insist that it's a beautiful ring and that you should take it either for good luck or as a gift for a loved one. But then, they will beg for money. If it's not your ring, which it certainly isn't, don't take it. Just walk away and ignore them. In the Champ de Mars Park, there is a common scam involving 3 cups and a ball. The man places the ball under one of the cups and quickly shuffles them. You have to guess which cup the ball is under and bet on it with the promise of doubling your money if you guess correctly. However, the onlookers around are often accomplices meant to make you believe that winning is easy. Be careful, don't get caught up in this trick. Additionally, there are people here who, seeing that you are a foreign tourist, will approach you to chat and then ask for your signature on a piece of paper they always carry. However, you should not sign it, because once you sign for them, other accomplices will suddenly appear and surround you. In such a crowd, unfortunate things like pickpocketing can easily happen. Speaking of pickpocketing, it's an unfortunate event that any tourist might encounter here. Many people come to Paris to admire the beauty of the city, but while you are admiring Paris's sights, there are others eyeing your bag. Parisians are famous for being civilized, polite, and law-abiding, but pickpocketing is truly a specialty of Paris. Even European tourists, especially those from the United States and the United Kingdom, are prime targets for pickpockets. When night falls, the atmosphere becomes more mysterious and quiet, but it also hides many unexpected risks. In the dark, even familiar places can turn into a playground for danger. If you decide not to walk for safety reasons, choosing to take an Uber may not be as safe as you think. Lucy, 24 years old, encountered an issue with an Uber driver after booking a ride around 10:30 p.m. in the suburbs of Paris. When she noticed the driver was going in the wrong direction and not following the GPS, she immediately asked him about her destination. 5 minutes later, the driver stopped the car, canceled the trip, but continued driving, despite Lucy wanting to get out. Realizing something was wrong, she decided to leave the car to ensure her safety. To avoid similar situations, always inform a loved one about your trip and ask them to track your location until you arrive safely. As we mentioned, from education to security, there are hidden aspects to everything here. Healthcare is no exception. While it is considered a symbol of world-class medical quality, the French healthcare system still has some unexpected flaws. One of the most concerning issues is the overcrowding in public hospitals, especially in rural areas and suburbs, where people often have to wait weeks or even months to get an appointment or see a specialist. Although the health insurance system covers most medical costs, patients still have to pay a significant portion out of pocket. According to statistics, out-of-pocket expenses account for about 43% of total healthcare spending, much higher than the recommended 20% by the World Health Organization. In contrast, Sweden's public healthcare system provides residents with access to high-quality healthcare services at very low or no cost, funded by taxes. In France, however, taxes are quite high compared to other countries. The personal income tax rate in France can reach as high as 45%. Imagine receiving your paycheck only to find that nearly half of it is taken by taxes, which is quite a formidable amount compared to 37% in the US and 42% in Germany. Notably, the standard VAT or value-added tax is 20%, which is applied to almost everything from restaurant meals to souvenirs, making the cost of everything slightly premium compared to other destinations. For example, purchasing a $2,000 handbag in France would come with an additional $400 VAT. If you're considering buying a car, be prepared for a substantial tax. A $30,000 car would have an extra $6,000 VAT, plus environmental taxes if the car has high emissions. This is a significant cost compared to countries with lower VAT rates, such as Switzerland, where the VAT is only around 7.7%. Even real estate is heavily taxed. When buying a house worth $300,000 in France, the transfer tax can range from $11,500 to $21,000, much higher than the $3,000 to $9,000 in the UK. This makes property ownership a luxury goal for many, especially first-time homebuyers. France may be a dream destination for many travelers, but a closer look reveals a glamorous Paris with unpredictable high costs. For those unfamiliar with French living, the high cost of daily life can come as a shock. Unlike rural areas where local farmers markets offer affordable prices, French people mainly shop for groceries at large supermarkets like Carrefour or Monoprix, where prices are not as friendly as at traditional markets. A basket of vegetables, meat, and basic necessities can cost anywhere from $50 to $100 per shopping trip, much higher than the average in other countries. For other expenses, housing costs in large cities like Paris can become a significant burden. Rent for a one-bedroom apartment in central Paris often starts at $1,500 per month, much higher than cities like Berlin or Lisbon, where rent for the same type of apartment ranges from $800 to $1,000. Transportation costs are also expensive. Although the public transportation system is highly developed, subway fares in Paris are still not cheap. A monthly metro ticket costs around $85 to $100, which is higher than the average in some other European cities. For food lovers, dining in France can be an amazing experience, but it can also come as a shock when it comes to prices. A simple meal at a small restaurant usually costs no less than $15 to $20 per person, while a dinner at a mid-range restaurant can easily run up to $50 to $70 per person. If you're looking to try a meal at a prestigious Michelin restaurant, the cost can exceed $200 per person. Even a cup of coffee at a small cafe on the street isn't exactly budget-friendly, with prices often ranging from $4 to $5, higher than many other places in Europe. As for other costs, rent in major cities like Paris can become a significant burden. Living costs in France also affect entertainment and daily leisure activities. Activities like watching a movie, attending a yoga class, or visiting museums are no exception. A movie ticket in Paris usually costs $12 to $15, while entry fees to famous museums like the Louvre or Orsay range from $5 to $20 per visit. Outdoor activities might also require additional fees if visiting popular parks or tourist sites. Overall, monthly living expenses in France, especially in large cities like Paris, typically range from $2,500 to $3,000, and a 7-day trip to the city costs about $1,200 to $1,500. Indeed, the cost of living is very high, comparable to that in the United States. So, with monthly expenses of $2,500 to $3,000, is France still a dream destination for you? If so, comment 1. If not, comment 0. We will share with you a country that offers a similar quality of life to France but costs only 40% of what you'd pay in France. Finally, if you plan to overcome these dark sides and travel to France, even the visa process can become an obstacle for many people from the US or other European countries. Despite coming from developed nations with stable travel histories, first-time travelers often encounter difficulties and may even have their visas rejected. Common reasons include insufficient proof of financial stability, a lack of a solid travel record, or missing required documents, turning the visa application process into a more stressful experience rather than the start of an adventure. One of the most frustrating points is the non-refundable visa fee, a significant amount for those planning long trips or frequent visits to France. For U.S. travelers, the requirements to prepare health insurance, proof of finances, and numerous other documents can sometimes feel overwhelming, especially when things aren't clear or seem too complicated. Even those with strong travel histories may face long waiting times for results, which puts their plans at risk. With all the difficulties and hidden aspects we've listed about France, do you still consider it a dream destination? If so, comment 3. If not, comment 6. We will introduce you to countries that are even more interesting. This concludes our travel documentary on the dark side of France. Thank you for watching until the end of this documentary. If you found today's video useful, please like and comment to let us know. On the other hand, if there's anything you're dissatisfied with, please comment so we can improve. See you in our next journey of exploring the world.